Employees, what's the wildest thing you've overheard from customers who thought you weren't listening? I used to work in a mid-range furniture store where the music system was controlled from a tablet behind the counter, and one of its quirks was that certain display speakers turned on automatically if someone pressed the Bluetooth pair button on their phone. Most customers never figured out how to do that accidentally, but one couple did, and it led to the single wildest thing I've ever overheard in my life. I was restocking throw pillows at the front when the living room speaker section suddenly crackled, then lit up with the device-connected chime. At first, all I heard was rustling, then loud breathing, like someone pressing the phone too close to their face. Then a woman's voice said, "Okay, we need to talk about the will before he finds out." My head snapped toward the speakers so fast I almost pulled something. A man whispered back, "Relax, he won't question anything if we play it right. He still trusts me." At this point, I froze, pillow in hand, because they were definitely not inside the speaker area. The voices were distant, like they were walking through another part of the store, completely unaware they were broadcasting their entire conspiracy. The woman continued, sounding annoyed, "You said you'd talk to the lawyer already. The longer we wait, the more chance he gets suspicious." The man groaned dramatically and said, "I told you he's not suspicious. He still thinks we're just work friends." That phrase echoed through the speakers like they were performing for an invisible audience, and at least 5 customers nearby turned to stare at me like I had the answers. Before I could disconnect the system, the woman said louder this time, "You're impossible. If he finds out you've been sleeping with me for 2 years and the money is missing, we are screwed." Every shopper in a 20-foot radius just stopped moving. One older woman literally clapped her hand over her mouth like she was watching the climax of a soap opera. I scrambled for the tablet, but the Bluetooth menu was glitching, bouncing between devices like a possessed nightclub DJ. Meanwhile, the couple kept strolling through the store, having their super private meltdown projected in full Dolby Surround. The man hissed, "We only moved the money, we didn't steal it," and she snapped back, "The bank doesn't see it that way, genius." Someone in the rug aisle whispered, "Oh, this is getting good," like they'd paid for admission. Then, as if the universe needed to escalate it, the man added, "Just calm down. He won't look into anything unless we slip up." Immediately after that sentence, they both physically walked into the living room section and froze as they realized their voices were blasting from every speaker around them. The woman gasped so loudly it echoed. The man looked around like he was about to start smashing electronics with his bare hands. I finally managed to disconnect the Bluetooth, but the damage was done. Every customer in that area was staring at them with this stunned, wide-eyed look of someone who just accidentally witnessed the prelude to a Netflix true crime documentary. The couple didn't say a word. They just turned around in perfect sync and walked out of the store faster than I've ever seen humans move without running. 5 minutes later, a guy from outdoor furniture came up to me and said, "Bro, I hope whoever he is has a good lawyer." I laughed, but honestly, part of me still wonders what happened to them and whether the he ever figured out that the universe tried to hand him the truth using a clearance section soundbar. To this day, no Bluetooth incident has ever topped that one. I used to work the late shift at a mid-range hotel, the kind of place where business travelers and families collide in the lobby like two very different weather systems. One night, around 11:30 p.m., I was restocking the little snack alcove next to the front desk. I was crouched down behind the lower shelf arranging overpriced bags of trail mix when 2 women walked up, totally unaware that I was about a foot from their ankles and very much within hearing distance. They were dressed like they'd just come back from a fancy dinner, laughing loudly in that 2 glasses of wine pass subtle kind of way. I stayed quiet because I figured they'd grab something and leave, but then the conversation took a hard left turn. The first woman said, "Okay, but you still haven't told me where you hid the ring." The second woman responded, "I didn't hide it. I pawned it." I froze, not because of the words, but the absolute lack of hesitation in her voice. The first woman gasped so loudly that I thought she'd sucked the oxygen out of the entire lobby. She whispered, "You pawned your engagement ring? The one from Mark?" The second woman snorted, "Please, that man thinks emotional maturity is remembering my birthday. I'm buying myself a trip to Aruba with that money. The first woman sputtered, "What are you going to tell him when he notices?" The second shrugged, actually shrugged. "I'll just say the hotel lost it." At that point, my brain was screaming, "Do not react, do not laugh, do not breathe, you are invisible," but she wasn't done. She lowered her voice and said, "Anyway, I'm not even sure I'm going to marry him. I met someone else last month." Her friend gasped again, but somehow louder. "Wait, are you talking about the guy you matched with while Mark was in the hospital?" The second woman said, "Technically, he wasn't conscious, so I don't count that as cheating." I swear my soul left my body. They wandered deeper into the alcove, still talking like they were in a private soundproof bubble, instead of approximately 6 inches away from a traumatized hotel employee surrounded by granola bars. Then the story escalated. Apparently, the new guy wasn't just someone she matched with. He was married. Worse, she'd met the wife at a PTA meeting because their kids went to the same school. Her friend whispered, "Oh my God, you're going to get caught." The woman said, "Not if I'm smart. I told Mark I'm volunteering for more school events." Boom, built-in excuses. At this point, I was silently begging for a fire alarm to go off so I could escape, or a small meteor. Anything. But the universe wasn't done. The friend said, "You know this is going to blow up eventually." The woman laughed in a way that made me physically cold. "That's the plan. I want it to blow up. I'm just waiting until after Mark finishes paying off my car." Then she added, "The married one says he'll leave his wife if I play my cards right." Her friend choked. "You're not serious." She said, "Dead serious. I've already got screenshots ready in case I need leverage." Leverage. I was kneeling on the tile, gripping a box of candy like a flotation device, wondering if this was what hell sounded like. Finally, they grabbed 2 sodas and left, still gossiping, still unaware that I had just absorbed more relationship chaos in 10 minutes than some therapists do in a year. I waited until I heard the elevator doors close before I stood up, stretched my knees, and whispered to myself, "What the actual hell did I just listen to?" The wildest part. The next morning, she came downstairs holding hands with Mark, who looked like a human golden retriever in khakis, and she smiled at me like she was in a toothpaste commercial. Meanwhile, I had to pretend I didn't know she'd pawned his engagement ring, was cheating on him with a married guy, and had a tactical sabotage plan waiting in her notes app. To this day, it remains the single most chaotic, morally radioactive conversation I've ever accidentally eavesdropped on, and all I did was try to restock the damn trail mix. I was working in a high-end jewelry store, which already tells you everything you need to know about the kind of emotional circus I dealt with daily. The shop looked serene and classy on the outside, but backstage, it was pure chaos, like someone put velvet on a pressure cooker and called it luxury. One slow Tuesday, a couple walked in, and I swear the temperature dropped about 5 degrees from how tense they were. The guy strutted around like he was auditioning for the role of man who definitely has his life together, while the woman looked like she was 2 seconds away from chewing through her own purse strap. They thought I'd walked into the back room, but really I was just around the corner cleaning the display cases. That's when I heard the woman whisper, "You are fixing this today, or I'm calling your mother myself." That alone was spicy enough, but then he said, "I told you, I didn't lose the ring. I just don't know where I put it." My soul left my body for a moment, probably to go laugh in a corner. Losing an engagement ring isn't a mistake, it's a full cultural catastrophe. She said, "It was my grandmother's," which should have been the end of his life right there. He muttered something like, "It's probably still in Vegas," which made me physically stop and stare at the wall like it was going to explain their entire relationship to me. The woman went silent in a way that felt like the earth paused rotation. Then she hissed, "I thought you told me nothing happened in Vegas." The guy actually had the nerve to say, "Well, technically nothing happened that I remember." This man was tap dancing on landmines. She sucked in a breath so sharp I swear it rearranged the air molecules. Then the cherry on the chaos cake, he whispered, "Okay, fine. I might have pawned it for cash because I thought I was on a winning streak." So now I'm standing there, pretending to polish glass while contemplating whether to call an ambulance. The woman practically levitated. "You gamble pawned my grandmother's ring?" she said. but in a whisper so intense it felt like it might peel paint. He said, "I was going to win it back." As if that ever works outside a bad movie. She suddenly started crying, but not the gentle kind, more like a quiet, simmering rage that made me feel like I should update my will. He tried hugging her, which she dodged like she was Neo from the Matrix. Then she said, "We're getting a new ring today, and you're paying for it, and then we're calling my mother, and you're telling her exactly what you did." That's when I knew I needed to walk out front and pretend I didn't just hear the entire fall of Rome. I stepped around the corner, doing my best customer service smile, and said, "How can I help you?" The woman looked at me with the serenity of someone who had already planned this man's funeral. "We need an engagement ring," she said flatly. The guy looked like he wanted to crawl into the nearest display case and die next to the pearls. I guided them through the process, acting like I wasn't holding their entire relationship's obituary in my brain. The woman picked the most expensive ring in the case without blinking. When I told her the price, she didn't flinch. He nearly choked on his own tongue, but handed over his card anyway, the sound of defeat echoing through the room like a sad trombone. After the sale, she said, "Thank you," in a pleasant tone, which honestly scared me more. When they left, my manager walked over and said, "Everything good?" I just stared at him. "Man lost an heirloom at a casino and lived to buy a replacement," I said. "Define good." He nodded like this was just Tuesday, and honestly, maybe it was. I used to work at a small, cozy coffee shop near a college campus. The tables were packed tight and the walls were paper thin, which meant that anything anyone said literally floated across the room. One rainy afternoon, a guy comes in with a notebook and sits in the corner, scribbling furiously. He thinks no one can hear him, but I hear every word because the entire cafe has a kind of natural echo. He mutters, "If I get this right, I can finally take down my roommate without anyone suspecting me." I freeze mid-pour while a latte steams in my hand. He continues, "Yeah, it's simple. Just switch his notes with mine for the midterm. He'll fail. I'll pass." Perfect. I almost drop the cup. Then he whispers, "And if he notices, I just say I found the notes on the floor. Total accident. Nobody will blame me." At that point, I'm hiding behind the counter like a spy, trying to listen without looking obvious. I feel like I'm in an amateur crime thriller. He starts outlining a step-by-step plan. Step 1, sneak into the dorm. Step 2, swap the notebooks. Step 3, make sure the TA doesn't notice the handwriting difference. I have no idea if I should laugh, scream, or call campus security. I decide to wait and observe. Then he mutters something that makes me choke on my own spit. And after midterms, I might frame him for eating my leftover pizza. He'll never see it coming. By this point, I'm convinced this man has a master's degree in overthinking and evil scheming. I slowly step out from behind the counter and say, "Excuse me, sir, your order is ready." He jumps like I'm a ghost and mutters something about how quiet the room was. I hand him the latte and smile politely, thinking, nobody should ever know how close I was to hearing someone's criminal plot in real life. He leaves, notebook in hand, muttering to himself, and I spend the rest of my shift replaying the conversation in my head like it was a movie I can't unsee. To this day, I avoid sitting in that corner of the cafe because I have no idea what kind of schemes might be plotted next to the sound of steaming milk and jazz music. I used to work at a jewelry shop in a mall, and the walls were embarrassingly thin. Like, if someone sneezed in the watch section, you'd hear it crystal clear through the engagement ring display. So one afternoon, this couple walks in. The girl is excited, practically glowing, and the guy looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. They start browsing rings, and I'm pretending to polish necklaces while listening because, honestly, ring shopping drama is peak entertainment in retail. The girl picks out this gorgeous diamond band, and the guy immediately goes, "Yeah, we can look, but we're just browsing today." Totally normal, right? Abso-freaking-lutely not. Because she walks away for a moment to check matching bracelets, and then he leans in toward his buddy, who I didn't even notice came in with them, and whispers, "Dude, I'm not even sure I want to propose anymore." I froze mid-polish. Buddy whispers back, "Then why are you here?" The guy sighs like the universe is crushing him and goes, "Her family keeps asking, I'm buying time. I'm waiting for that girl from the gym to message me back. I swear I almost dropped the necklace." He continues, "If that doesn't work out in the next few weeks, I guess I'll just do this." This, as in propose to the woman who is currently looking at bracelets to match her imaginary future engagement ring. His tone was like he was deciding on a phone plan, not a spouse. Meanwhile, the girlfriend comes back smiling, holding a bracelet like, "Look how well this matches." I had to act like I hadn't just heard the most emotionally destructive sentence of my retail career. They eventually left with nothing, thank God, but the wildest part. A week later, the girlfriend came back alone crying, returning a gift he gave her and asking about refund policies. She didn't say what happened, but I didn't have to guess. And I still think about how close that woman came to walking into a lifetime with a man who was waiting for a gym girl's DM retail here's everything man. I worked at a phone store, the kind where you deal with people who suddenly lose their ability to read when it comes to contracts. A couple comes in, older guy, much younger woman. They're speaking Spanish, and because I look definitively non-Latino, they assume I can't understand a word. Boy, were they wrong. They sit down, and while I'm running the guy's info, he whispers to her, in Spanish, "Don't say anything about my wife. If he asks why your ID doesn't match the address, just say we're roommates." The girl giggles and goes, "Relax, she still thinks I'm your yoga instructor." I keep typing, trying not to choke. Then the guy goes, "This plan better stay cheap, she's expensive enough." She laughs again and says, "You're the one who wanted someone who could do more than stretch." I swear I almost rebooted the computer just to hide my reaction. Then it gets worse. They start talking about how they sneak around. She, "Your wife almost caught us last time." Him, "Well, maybe if you didn't leave your makeup in my car." Her, "It's because you were rushing me like always." Him, "Don't start that again." They are arguing like I'm literally furniture. Finally, when the guy leaves to get something from the car, the girl sighs dramatically and mutters, "God, I hope her divorce lawyer scares him enough to give me more." She is straight up plotting the man's financial destruction while I'm printing a SIM card receipt. When he comes back, I hand him the paperwork and in perfect Spanish say, "You forgot to sign line 5. The girl's face. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. He looked confused, then suspicious. They left very quickly after that. I still laugh about it sometimes. Not about the affair, but the fact they assumed I didn't understand Spanish while discussing their entire criminally stupid life choices 2 feet away from my face. I worked at a grocery store customer service desk, which is basically a confessional booth with coupons. One day, 2 adult siblings come in Sister Furious Brother Defeated. They're returning a cake. Already this is a mess, but then they step aside to talk privately around the corner. They didn't notice our counter microphone was still on. I heard everything. The sister goes, "You ruined mom's party again." The brother snaps, "Well, maybe if she didn't keep inviting dad's mistress." I stopped breathing for a second. The sister hisses, "She's technically his fiancée now." He responds, "He's still married to mom. You know she doesn't believe in divorce." At this point, I'm standing there holding a return slip for a ruined marble cake, listening to a whole telenovela unfold. Then the brother says, "And don't act innocent. You knew he was cheating before anyone else did." She fires back, "I didn't know she was 17. I swear I almost hit the store's panic button just from shock. Then he goes, "And why did you bring the cake you can't even bake without crying?" She screams, "Because mom asked me and you're always a disappointment." Customers in line start staring at the small speaker above my station because it's blasting this verbal cage match like a podcast. Finally, I walk over awkwardly like, your return is approved." They both snap around like, "How much did you hear?" I lied and said nothing. Everyone knew it was a lie. They took the refund and stormed out separately, leaving me with the incredible burden of being the only non-family member who now knows their entire personal drama. I never looked at cake returns the same way again. I was a barista in a small cafe where tables were way too close, so trust me, customers' conversations were not private. One afternoon, this guy and his friend come in and sit right by the register. They talk quietly at first, so I ignore it. But then the friend loudly asks, "So how are things with Laura?" The guy sighs like he's carrying a cosmic burden and says, "Which one?" The friend blinks. "You have two Lauras?" The guy goes, "Well, technically three, but one doesn't count. She's married." I whip my head up so fast I almost spilled a latte. The guy continues, "I'm trying to balance them. Work Laura thinks I broke up with Home Laura. Home Laura thinks I'm traveling for work next week. And Gym Laura thinks I'm single." His friend chokes on his drink and says, "Dude, this is not sustainable. You need a spreadsheet." A spreadsheet for women. Then the guy goes full villain. I color code them. Yellow for available nights, red for family stuff, blue for, well, you know. His friend is laughing like this is genius instead of sociopathic. Then the guy says, "The only problem is their birthdays are too close together. If I mess up again, one of them is going to kill me." Friend, "What did you do last time?" Guy, "I gave Work Laura the necklace Home Laura picked out for me. I told Home Laura it got lost in the mail." Friend, "Dude, you're playing with fire." Guy, "Yeah, but the chaos keeps me focused." I felt like calling every Laura in the city as a warning. When he came to pick up his drinks, I looked him in the eye and said, "Good luck with everything." He blinked like I had just cursed him. Honestly, maybe I did. Working in retail late at night guarantees weird customers, but this was beyond weird. I was stocking chips when two teenagers came around the corner whispering, not the normal "LOL, we're being dumb" teenagers whispering, but the "we did something illegal and we're gonna talk about it next to the Doritos" whispering. Kid 1, "Dude, you seriously think they won't check the cameras?" Kid 2, "Bro, relax, it wasn't that big of a crime." I pause mid-shelf, listening like the chips don't matter anymore. Kid 1, "We stole a car, that's a big crime." Kid 2, "Borrowed, we borrowed it." Kid 1, "That lady screamed when we drove away." Kid 2, "Yeah, because we weren't supposed to back into the trash cans." At this point, I'm involuntarily holding a family-size bag of Cheetos like it's a radio antenna. Then Kid 1 says, "Do you think she got the plate?" Kid 2, "Nah, I scratched the numbers off." Kid 1, "Bro, that's how they find you." Kid 2, "I saw it in a movie." Kid 1, "Movies are fiction, you idiot." I slowly stepped backward before they noticed me because I did not want to end up as a witness in some future court case. As I'm leaving the aisle, I hear, "Kid 1, we're so going to jail." Kid 2, "Only if we go back to return it." They left the store buying only gum, like that was going to fix Grand Theft Auto. I told my manager and he just said, "Don't get involved. Corporate says no heroics." So I didn't. But I will always wonder what happened to Dumb and Dumber that night. I worked at a tech store, and one guy came in furious because a brand new laptop didn't work at all. He had the energy of someone who was about to demand to see every manager in a 3-mile radius. So I take the laptop to check it, and while I'm running diagnostics, he steps away to call someone, clearly thinking I can't hear. He goes, "Yeah man, I told her I'd write the essay for her, but I can't do it if the laptop won't turn on." Pause. Then he goes, "No dude, it totally turns on. I just said that so she'd give me her old one." My eyebrows shot into the atmosphere. He continues, "What, yeah, she bought it for school with her scholarship, I know, but if she wants me to write the essays, she should pay up." Then laughter. So much laughter, like villain laughter. I keep typing, but I'm basically buffering inside like a slow Wi-Fi connection. Then he says, "She thinks I'm doing it because I love her, bro. I didn't even want to date her. Her mom just cooks good food." At that point, I want to slam the laptop shut and hand it back with a note that says, "Run, girl." He comes back smiling and says, "So what's wrong with it?" I look him dead in the eyes and say, "Nothing. It works perfectly. You can take it home." He freezes. He knows. I heard everything. He leaves in total silent panic. I hope that girl dumped him and became a CEO out of spite. Retail hears things we never want to, but oh boy, We hear everything. I was working at a small boutique, just folding scarves and pretending I didn't notice the customers staring at jewelry they clearly couldn't afford. One day, this guy comes in looking like he's about to faint from anxiety. He whispers to his girlfriend, "Okay, when I drop down on one knee, remember? Pretend it's a surprise." I'm crouched behind the scarf display, trying not to snort. Then he mutters, "If she says no, I'll just say the store distracted me. She'll think it's cute." I almost dropped a cashmere sweater. He practices under his breath. "Will you… Wait, is that the right ring? No, too shiny. Too shiny. She'll think I overpaid." I'm trying to fold scarves faster than humanly possible. My coworker leans over and whispers, "Is that a proposal?" I whisper back, "Apparently." And apparently he plans to fail spectacularly. Finally, he goes down on one knee, whispers something. She gasps, and then mutters, "This is why I'm marrying you. Because you're terrible at planning." I blinked. He whispered back, "That's not a no, right?" She laughed. She laughed. Then muttered, "You're lucky I love you anyway." I'm still thinking he might have been listening to me behind the scarf display. But yeah, if you ever thought people only whisper things you shouldn't hear in offices or at home, try a small boutique during holiday season. The drama is Olympic level. I worked at a chain coffee shop where we had this promotion: buy 5 drinks, get a free one. A group of 3 customers was sitting by the window, and one of them whispered to the others, "I know a way to get the free drinks without actually buying 5. I pretended to stock napkins nearby while listening. They giggled like villains in a cartoon. "Just use your friend's account from last week," whispered another. "The barista will never notice." I stopped folding napkins mid-motion. My manager had told me not to interfere unless someone caused a scene. They continued, "If we switch the receipts, it's basically like stealing, but not really stealing." I swear I almost dropped the sugar packets. Finally, one of them whispers, "We could even try bribing the cashier. She's new. Rookie mistake if we offer her a tip." I walked out from behind the counter and went, "Hey, the system's automatic. There's literally no way to do that." They froze. Total deer in headlights moment. We were joking." One squeaked. I smiled thinly. "Good, let's keep it that way, I swear." If I hadn't overheard them, I'd have been the one to accidentally approve their scheme. I worked at a bank as a teller during summer break. One morning, a man came in talking to his friend in a tone that clearly assumed the teller couldn't understand him. He whispered, "Okay, so if the security camera angle is right, we can take the money in the vault without anyone seeing." I'm standing there, nodding politely while simultaneously doing a mental double take. He continued, "Yeah, but I think the guard takes lunch at 12:15. That's our window. Should be easy." I tried to breathe slowly and avoid looking at the manager. Then he mutters, "I've got a fake ID for you if needed. The night crew guy is useless. Easy target." I don't know how I kept my calm. I probably turned a little green. I pretended to check the printer while listening. He finally leans back and whispers, "And if that fails, we'll just pretend we're investors. Nobody questions investors." I almost laughed out loud. Then my coworker said, "Do you think they know we can hear them?" I whispered, "If they do, they'll never admit it." The man leaves eventually, and yeah, I called security. Turns out he was just bragging and had no actual plan. But man, that was some next-level entitlement and stupidity in one person. I worked at a toy store, and one day a mother and her son were whispering in the aisle. She said, "Okay, don't tell your sister about the gift. She has no idea I bought it." The boy whispers back, "But what if she finds the wrapping paper?" The mother hisses, "She doesn't check the top shelf. Trust me." I'm folding plush toys and thinking, "Oh, this is sweet." Then the mother mutters, "Also, if the store runs out of the dragon toy, just grab the unicorn. He'll never know the difference." At that point, I froze. Not because it was entitlement, but because she was literally teaching her kid how to cheat the inventory. The boy whispers, "Mom, what if the cashier asks?" She whispers back, "Then we charm her. Tell her we're very polite customers." I swear I almost laughed out loud. When they reach the counter, I sneakily pick up their items. She says, "Don't tell anyone we did this." I smile and say, "Your secret's safe." And I swear, hearing a parent teach clever bending of rules to a 6-year-old in a toy store is simultaneously horrifying and hilarious. I worked at a bridal shop, and one day a bride-to-be is whispering with her maid of honor about the groom. She's looking at dresses and says, "He doesn't know yet, but I invited my ex to the wedding. I think it'll be funny." I am standing there holding a veil, frozen like a statue. Her maid of honor whispers, "Are you serious? That's insane." The bride says, "Yeah, but he never checks the guest list. He's too focused on the cake." I try not to breathe too loudly. Then the bride whispers, "Also, I replaced his suit with a cheap one. He won't notice, trust me, it's funny." I'm holding a $500 veil and my jaw dropped. I cannot let this woman marry this man without intervention. When they check out, I politely nod and say nothing. The groom-to-be wasn't there yet, thankfully. I went home that night haunted by the pure chaos that people plan in secret and think nobody notices.